be ready.
Looks good.
Andy, I may be joining you on a different machine, so you may see my name up twice. If you let me in on that one, I'll get off on this one.
Sure. You can be two people if you want, Bruce.
Just trying to get it, one that works with a camera.
Usually the best one for everything is a phone.
Looks like Josh is joining us tonight. Hello, Josh.
How are you? Hi all.
Hello. Hello.
YouTube is up.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it. It is 7 o'clock, so Bruce, are you all set, or?
I just have to put a passcode in just a minute.
Okay. Then I'll get started.
Is it everybody, Candy? It looks like.
Yeah, it is. Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to start the meeting. Welcome to Monday, March 15th, 2021, Board of Selectmen regular meeting. We're going to start off with our call to order as we usually do. So, Candace, please.
Candace Bouchard,
Todd Archelashi.
Melissa Bird,
Bob Geiger.
Candy Perez.
Sheila Sedlak.
Jack Bork. Steven Sedlak.
Linda Grappo,
Okay, thank you very much. We are still on, as you can tell, people at home, we're still not meeting in person. We're mainly meeting by Zoom. We hope by our next meeting, and definitely the budget meetings, to be different. I am in the Hicks room with Sheila and myself, just to be able to broadcast to all of you. So we look forward to coming back in person with everybody soon. So may you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
That doesn't work very well on Zoom.
No, I think when we're in person, we'll have better alignment. Anyway, brings us to item 3, agenda review. Is there anything anybody wanted to review on the agenda or needs changed? I see a hand, Linda.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on the agenda for boards and commissions, and in the packet, there was information on some appointees and nominees that we had.
Number 9?
Add that?
It's number 9.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, see, I was that quick. I got it all fixed for you real quick.
Very good.
Okay, so we'll move on to approval of our minutes of our regular meeting for March 1st. May I have a motion to approve? Thank you. Thank you, Candace. Is there a second? Thank you, Todd. Does anybody have any additions or corrections for Sheila? Seeing none, all in favor? It's unanimous, right, Candace?
Yes,
Thank you.
sorry.
That's okay. I'm assuming, but I never want to assume. Because every once in a while you throw me a little curveball. So anyway, so next up is citizens' comments. This is where we take comments from people that wish to call in, 860-738-6958. We have this again at the number 11 as well, so it's not just here. 860-738-6958. I have my trusty phone next to me. Be glad to answer it. When we go back to in-person, people will be able to make comments in person here too. Town manager's office is always a good place to call during the week if you have a question. Oh, while I'm waiting here for somebody, if they want to call in, just want to let you know that the police department did put out a little message today about the 379-2721 number does roll over to the LCD, and it will be answered, just as a 911 call would be at LCD, but then it gets transferred to the right areas. There were some people on Facebook that were concerned about that, so the chief looked into it and put a message out today. So, nobody called in, so I will move on to the town manager's report. Bob?
All right. Let me start out as usual here with last week, March 1st through March the 5th. On Monday, that was our last Board of Selectmen meeting, but also that day I met with the Public Works Director regarding staffing issues, and we probably had a couple job changes and hired one new employee replacing someone who had left. Had a site visit regarding a resident issue with cars and shared driveways. Occasionally these shared driveways pop up as a problem, particularly during snowstorms when neither party wants to plow it, and they haven't made arrangements, but I think we resolved that. Also, with a Zoom meeting, a board meeting with Mira on their budget issues and the percentage increase which we're going to receive, which is already in the budget packet, which you'll all see tomorrow. As you know, that's a looming problem with our trash disposal in Connecticut. There'll be a lot more meetings and a lot more issues in the future months to address that. I also met with the Board of Education on budget discussions. I also met with the fire chief on updates regarding a fire that we had on that Friday at a home here in town, trying to figure out what happened. And, no one was injured, but the house was pretty destroyed. We also had the Board of Selectmen that night as well. Tuesday, I met with the Public Works Director regarding power outages. We've been working with Eversource. We did have a lot of wind, if you recall, that day. And we didn't have a lot of power outages, but they were still problematic for a lot of people. I also met with Public Works Director regarding the Suckerbrook culvert repair and our steep claim with the states, $128,000. There'll be a lot more discussion about that. We had more today. We have yet to receive our money from the state. We're struggling with that project. In terms of the project is almost completed. Our steep claim is possibly being denied or modified significantly. I also had budget reviews with the finance director all last week and this week. They're basically been budget reviews every day right up until today. I also went to the library. We had a site visit up there regarding a new lighting project, which we received some state grant money for, and met with the library director. Wednesday was just an entire day of budget reviews, interrupted by the usual number of phone calls and emails relative to citizens' issues, but mostly budget reviews that day. Thursday, I had a budget review with Public Works. That's primarily has to do with their capital projects, which have gotten a little more complex. So we're trying to accelerate what we're doing at the beginning of the year. I also met with the police chief regarding some issues we had in town the prior night. Nothing terribly significant, but was still, the chief felt he ought to update me because there were a number of small incidents. Had discussions with the Hartford Hospital regarding the ambulance service. Right now, we receive ambulance service. We have our own town ambulance service. We also have Trinity, who provides our EMT services. I'll talk a little more about that. Hartford is out of the new hospital here in town is seeking to be the provider of our EMT services. Currently, Trinity provides that. It used to be Campion Ambulance that provided those. Our own ambulance service does not provide the EMTs. They provide the ambulance, and Trinity provides the EMTs if they are so required. Try to think of the EMT services and insurance policy. They have to have EMTs available to the town 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and sometimes more than one if it's necessary. So we pay for that service that is provided. We have a separate contract, and I think I'll talk about that this week with our own ambulance service, and I'll mention that a little more further on here. Friday, I met with the Public Works Director again, and the engineer regarding capital projects. Again, we're talking about longer range issues, and I'll provide you a lot more detail on that this week yet. I also, again, Friday then, I was in a position, Hartford Hospital said they could not provide this coming year the EMT services that we required, so our contract with Trinity Ambulance had expired, and because Winstead is the larger of 7 towns which they service, I do the negotiations for all 7 towns. Norfolk, Colebrook, Park Hempstead, Heartland, I'm missing somebody, New Hartford. I also do Salisbury, Massachusetts. So we have.
Bob, you mean Sandersfield, not
I mean Sandersfield, not Salisbury. Sandersfield, pardon me, thanks. I knew it was an S. Sandersfield. So we have all agreed we now have an extended 2-year contract. We used to have a 3-year contract. This is a 2-year contract with no price increase. But I suspect Hartford is a little disappointed. They were hoping I would just get a 1-year contract, but they're just not ready, and the state has to approve their license and has not done so. I also met with our labor attorney regarding the next round of contracts. As you know, we finished the police contract. The next one up is Public Works, which is going to be coming up in the next couple of months. Then this week, March 8th through the 12th, I met with the police chief regarding a few citizens' complaints and actions, most having to do with blight or unlicensed vehicles parked where they shouldn't be. Then I conclude the EMT contract discussions with the surrounding 6 towns and Health and Trinity Health, and completed that negotiation. And then I had discussions with our finance director, Bruce, and he may talk more about that over the coming few weeks about our long-range financing issues. As you know, we're closing in the Hinsdale project. The bid opening should be this week, the construction bids. Tuesday, I met with the police chief again, general updates regarding personnel and training going into next year. We've had 1 retirement. We hired 1 new officer. Another female officer joined our ranks. She'll be going to the police academy probably starting next week. And we'll probably have a couple more retirements this year, which is the most we will have had since I've been here in 5 years. And then I also had a meeting with the president of our Winstead Ambulance. That's the one you're familiar with, the ambulance barn on Main Street. They usually provide us with a 5-year contract. The last one just expired, so we're in the process of completing the arrangements with that contract. No surprises there. It's all pretty standard. Wednesday, I met with Public Works Director regarding water and sewer operations. I don't run that, but Jimmy has to oversee it, and Bruce oversees the financing, and I get involved with some of their strategy and decision making. There's longer term issues there, and those the Water and Sewer Commission will address those. Like the rest of the capital projects in town, we've been behind for so long. We've been playing catch up. We're getting there. Water and Sewer's got some catching up to do. Jack Fork stopped in, and we talked about some updates on Wednesday. Again, I met with the finance director. I don't know why I put that down. I should put that down every day, just about more budget discussions. Thursday, the Northwest Hills COG met. We had a Zoom meeting. We meet once a month. We usually have a 2-hour meeting discussing what's going on in the region. A lot of discussion about COVID, where we stand. Nothing special on that meeting. We're all looking forward to live meetings at some point in time. We're hoping maybe the next month it might become possible. We're not sure yet. Then we had a meeting here in town with several of my key staff discussing East End Park and the controls over the use of the park. What kind of permits and fees are involved. So we met with the fire marshal, the police chief, the rec director. Tanya and the rec department are going to oversee that going into the future. We're developing the plans, processes, and permitted uses yet to be determined. We're coming close. And then I think the finance committee, we met, several of you were in that meeting. I also met with the fire chief came over, Jamie came over, and we had budget discussions on his particular operational needs and capital needs and long-range capital needs going forward. Friday I met with Public Works again regarding with budget discussions. That's probably our most complex department in terms of operational complexity and capital. And that was it. I just wanted to say I want everybody to keep in mind right now we had a serious automobile accident about 2 hours ago in Winchester. We had one of our volunteer firemen had some sort of incident. He hit a tree and broke both legs. He was airlifted to Hartford Hospital. So keep John Stedman in your mind and heart right now. He's not life-threatening, but 2 broken legs is certainly not a good thing. And that's it. Comments, questions? Let me see. I have a couple more follow-up notes here. Last week, Jimmy wanted me to mention they were concerned about our forever project on Pratt Street. We're so used to those concrete abutments. We finally had the resident agree to let us proceed. So we're in the process of getting bids to repair. Most of you are familiar with Pratt Street and the concrete abutments to the left on the way up to the school. So that project is underway. It's going to be a couple $100,000 project, but the bids came in too high. We modified it and it's being rebid, and we hope to start on it soon. I did have a concern about people concerned that we had not plowed our end of the path coming up from Torrington, the Greenway path. No good reason. It was never scheduled to be plowed unless there was a certain amount of snow, and don't know why, but we didn't get it done this year in this last snow. Concerned about the goose excrement, the geese excrement at the beaches. Tanya's aware of that. That committee does clean that up. In terms of our issue on how we're going after people not taking care of their dogs, we will cite them if we see who's doing it. But I think we've notified a lot of people with dogs. I have, so have several of the police. We've asked the police pick up after your dog. In most cases they do. Some cases they don't. If we see them, we'll cite them. But those are some of the minor issues I had here to follow up on last week. Any other comments? I'm sure there must be some. Comments, questions?
Let's start with Todd.
Todd?
Just to clarify, Trinity offers paramedics service for the town. Winstead Ambulance does have EMTs.
But it's the number one level. Yeah, the higher
We
level.
contract Trinity.
Usually, just so you know how that works, when someone calls in to LCD goes through a series of questions and determines the degree of care they might have to have. And so if they think it's serious, then they'll bring in the paramedics who are higher trained and certainly paid more to do that.
And they can dispense medication.
Correct.
My second question is the Sucker Brook Culvert state claim. You said
Yep.
that may be denied. What sort of issues are we having there?
Well, I met today with Jay Case was on the meeting with us. Bruce was on. Bruce was there. Bart was there on this. So we had a Teams meeting, not really a Zoom meeting. And it was supposed to be a steep project under the DOT. They had a requirement for when the construction bids had to be signed. We had started running into a timing issue. We submitted everything on time. I think COVID delayed some things from the state, and of course they're claiming that even though we felt we submitted everything on time, and we explained to them this was Sucker Brook, a culvert which had to be worked on during the deep drawdown. That was the only time we could do that. So this is like we only do this every several years. We believe we were in the limits, and we assumed that they would approve it. They pushed back on it. We've still probably got another $40,000 worth of work, but they denied our claim. So I called Jay Case. Jay has been trying to get this through for us, so we had a group meeting today. We've got a partial resolution, but it's not totally resolved yet. My guess is we're not gonna see all that money. We're trying to get it transferred to another project. I don't know the total outcome. We just had that meeting at 11 o'clock today.
One of the things I wanted to follow up with, maybe not so much for you, Bob, but for the public and stuff, is about the MIRA, the trash collection.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff moving at the state level with regards to the trash, because the MIRA plant is down, as people may have heard, it was down, then it's back up, but it doesn't have a long lifespan. So DEP is trying to create sustainable ways to deal with our trash. You heard Bob tell us that we were gonna be sending things out of state, and that's not sustainable either. So Debbie Angel, who's doing a great job at Regional Refuse District, which is where all our trash goes, she's talked about for a while now that we need to reduce our trash. As people that are doing things, we need to reduce our trash when we can, which is going to be developing, relationships with businesses, also with corporations, to stop sending us or packaging things with so much wrapping and whatnot. But one of the things that has come up, and Debbie gets, our Regional Refuse District gets charged more, is styrofoam. And we actually have an ordinance against it, and I know that Candace has been looking into alternatives for restaurants to use other than styrofoam packaging, styrofoam cups, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things that we're gonna have to do as a board is do a little bit of education, not just with, the businesses, but with the public as well. Because the state legislature, I was on a call earlier this week, I got on it, and there are things coming through the state legislature about pay-as-you-go, or pay-as-you-throw, I should say. Some towns have that. We already pay as we throw because we don't have municipal pickup. We either do it with hiring somebody ourselves, which the haulers take to the regional refuse, or people go and buy a sticker themselves. So we're paying for people to take it away, but that's taking it from here to the regional refuse. So we need to do an educational thing over the next few months, next year, and we also need to take a look at the ordinance and see if we can't do something with that, as Candace has already started to do. So I want to make sure that everybody in the public as well, everybody on the board I think knows, but just want to make sure the public, for that part of your report, Bob, I think it's pretty important, going forward. Anybody else have any questions for Bob? Candace, and then Jack. Candace?
I have,
Oh,
two
she's-
questions. Oh, sorry. I have two questions. One of them is about the meeting about East End Park. Does that include protests?
Yes.
So do we have, to vendor spaces, do we have a form? Yes, okay, good, thank you. Second question is, has anyone street for the traffic lights? I was literally appalled at what happened at 390 in front of Rooted Market. So they're moving poles in the middle of our sidewalk. What's happening with that? Why aren't they being put in place where the former poles were?
Well, this is being done by the state DOT. And the old poles are going to be removed, but these are things being done in stages. So it's been done at 3 different intersections in town, all on state routes. And if you've noticed, some of the poles, the green poles were going to be removed. And when they remove those poles, then they will re-concrete, pour all new concrete. Wherever you see blacktop now will be all new concrete. So there's still some poles to be removed, and they still haven't completed all the new ones yet. There's still some things to attach yet. But you've noticed the new street lights are up on all.
But have you literally looked at? You looked at the one at 390. It's literally in front of that store.
So is that great big box that they insisted on putting in there 5 years ago, which
whatever.
is the control panel. We're not thrilled about
The
it.
box, yeah, but the box is, yeah, but
breaking up pretty
Whose
bad.
sidewalk is it? Ours or theirs?
Their easement.
I know.
We work with them. Sometimes they're accommodating, sometimes they're not.
So it's gonna stay there? It's not a transition
Silver
pole?
No, the silver poles, the permanent pole, the green poles will be removed to open up that area and make access for the handicap sidewalk, if they have to relocate that by a foot or two.
So the one Candace is talking about,
Well, I think we should,
in the middle of the sidewalk, or in too much of the sidewalk, is gonna stay there?
Well, the ones that are located there now, they're in the easement, but,
now they'll have to get in between that pole and the big box.
but that is the broadest part of the sidewalk. That's approximately 12 feet there, so. We've talked to them about it, also on the curbing and the handicap access ramps. They're not finished yet, but they're not gonna move the silver poles. The green poles are coming down. Hopefully they're gonna move the box. I don't know yet the specifications of how large the next box is gonna be. This was all being done to put the traffic light chain switches above the road instead of buried underneath blacktop.
So is it possible that they're going to landscape around this light pole and make it,
The state? No.
well, I mean, we spent all this money on Main Street beautification.
I know, I'm kind of laughing because I fight with them constantly to stop them from messing up our landscaping and curbing. I know.
They're not impacting our curbing, they're not impacting our bump outs. So what they're gonna do is remove the pole and then they will put the sidewalk in over it. So, they're just gonna fill it up with cement.
Correct.
Jack, you had some questions?
Yeah, Bob, I just want to follow up on what you had said regarding the maintenance of the greenway, the Winstead side of the greenway, of course, the plowing to allow people to walk on it. You said it was resolved, and I don't see we're going to have a lot more snow to be worried about this year, but have we put in place a process and know who is going to be responsible for maintaining the plowing of that greenway in the future?
Well, we don't,
What's
it's
the
clearly,
process going?
it's clearly Public Works. It's one of our projects. So if you come off of Lansing Drive right there, that area should just be plowed out. I don't know why it wasn't, but that area will be plowed out. We don't plow the greenway itself, we'll plow the access to it was the issue.
I think Torrington plows the greenway because it seems to, after a snowstorm, that still is walkable, but the Winstead section is not.
Well, I mean, it's all part of our snowplow plan. Jimmy's aware of it. We walked over there and looked at it because we did it last year. I don't know why it didn't get done this year. The parking access was the biggest problem. If you don't do that, you can't get to the sidewalk to plow it.
Just to be aware of, that the greenway on the Torrington side is not plowed the very same day. Sometimes it's a week in between the snowstorm and the plowing, so it's not something that they have to worry about right away, right in the middle of a snowstorm. So it'd be something a couple days later.
Right, I recognize that it's not right away, it's not immediate like the roads, but it is usually done, probably, as you say, within a week, so.
But we usually start on the sidewalks on Main Street first before we do anything else. But I don't know why it was missed. Jimmy wasn't sure either, but we're trying to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Well, I remember talking with the recreation director that when it comes to clearing the brush along the walkway, I think she indicated that that was part of the recreation department's responsibility.
Well, some of that brush requires our machine that the Public Works has that they don't have access to the long arm side mower trimmer. Sometimes Public Works has to go over there, and we do. I've been over there myself to watch how they do it this last summer.
Plus, we have the snow plow for our sidewalks on Main Street they could use
Right, well, we do.
for the snow.
Normally would use that. But Public Works has to do that. That machine takes a little operational skill to run.
Anyone else? If not, we'll move on to Bruce. Hey, Bruce.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you can hear me all right. Is that right?
Yes.
Good. Well, I have, in your packets was the general fund operating results through February 28th, 2021, which represents 8 months or 67% of the fiscal year. Some highlights from that report. Property tax revenues are collected at 99% of budget at this point, 23.6 million. We were 98% collected last year, or 23.3 million, so we're ahead about 300,000 from last year. And I do want to express my appreciation to taxpayers for their timely payments, especially during our current COVID pandemic circumstances. Total revenues are at 84% of budget through 8 months. We were at the same percentage last year. So the revenue side of the general fund budget is tracking very similar to last year. Expenditures are at 21.1 million, or 62% of the budget. Last year, we were also at 62% of the budget at this year to date at this time. So again, the expenditures are tracking the way we would expect them. Cash balance at February 28th was $17.6 million. It's kind of at a high water mark at this point because we've accomplished the second of the two real estate tax installments collection periods. 11.1 million of that was invested to generate some modest interest income. So the other thing that might be significant for you, there wasn't a lot of capital improvement project work during the month, but we did see a number of tree trimming contractors submit invoices. So some of that tree trimming, which is part of the annual road maintenance budget, was performed during the winter months. And that's my report tonight. Happy to answer any questions.
First, let me add a comment here. The issue of trees, we spend $200,000 a year, and this year the ash trees have been terrible. Some people have requested that we cut down ash trees that really aren't on our property. We can only cut down ash trees that are on town property. And I know there's a lot of ash trees that are in people's yards, and we really don't do those. We only do the trees that are on town property, just to let you all know.
Let me address one more thing. We did revise the fiscal 22 budget calendar slightly a week or so ago because the Board of Education personnel wanted to come in a little bit earlier than what we had originally scheduled, which was Monday, April 12th. They have been rescheduled to Monday, March 29th at 7 p.m. at the Pearson School. And I will replace the original budget calendar that's on the town website with the revisions that we agreed on Thursday.
Thank you. Any questions for Bruce? Okay, seeing none. Number 8 is correspondence. Was there any correspondence anyone wanted to highlight? Okay, that brings us to boards and commissions, and I know that, Steve, you have a couple things we have to do tonight.
Yes, as you saw in your package, I hope we have several actionable items here. First of all, I'd like to place into nomination Troy Lemire for a position on Planning and Zoning Commission. That will be an alternate position. He'll be replacing Lee Thompson, and his term will expire in 2024. So we will take action after further vetting. We'll take action on his nomination at our next meeting in 2 weeks.
Dave, do you have some background on him that you can provide?
I think you saw his letter of interest. We're still developing background on him. Did you see his letter in the package?
You mean in today's package?
No, last week.
Last week, yes. That was just a letter of interest, and you said you were going to do the vetting. I was just wondering if you had completed the vetting on him.
No, we haven't.
In his letter, didn't he say he was part of, I don't have the letter in front of me, I was just looking for it, and almost wiped you all out at the same time. So in the letter, didn't he talk about what he does, his position he has now? And Bob,
Yes.
you know him a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Jack, that letter, Jack, have you seen that one? Okay. No, he's currently the superintendent of the street department for Norfolk. He's also the zoning enforcement officer for Harwinton. He's a certified zoning tech through passing required classes at Central Community State University in 2018. He's also a wetlands enforcement officer. He's recently living in Winstead, and he was a 9-year active member of the Inland Wetlands Commission in New Hartford. So he's certainly familiar with boards and commissions and land use kinds of issues.
I've worked with them for a year off and on in New Hartford with economic development, and some of the land use issues there.
So we vote on him, we'll do him next meeting,
Next time.
yep.
Next time. There are two candidates we're going to take action on this evening. And one, the first is Melissa Reagan, appointment to the Board of Assessment Appeals, term to expire in October of 2023. And she'll be replacing Sam Dentropti. So I would make that a motion and look for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Melissa. Any other questions for Steve on that? All in favor? Looks unanimous, thank you. Good.
And the second candidate is Glenn Albanesius, so I'll move that we appoint Glenn Albanesius to the Board of Assessment Appeals, term to expire in October of 21, replacing Walter St. Ange.
Have we got a background check on him?
Yeah, funny. Jack seconded that, so.
Okay.
All in favor?
For Josh's.
All in favor?
He was one of our selectmen.
Jack, yes, okay. Unanimous? Hey, Bruce, can I ask you to make sure that I already told Melissa, but Glenn needs to make sure he gets sworn in because they're gonna start the week after with the assessment appeals on the calendar.
Right.
So he just needs to make sure he gets in the next 4 days, or Monday.
So Sheila needs to do the swearing in?
Yeah, town clerk's
Yes.
office, Janice could do it too, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
somebody needs to make sure Glenn knows, and I did tell Melissa to make sure she came in. Anything
Sheila,
else?
I think Sheila had mentioned that you don't have to be there in person to be sworn in, that you could do it on Zoom or some platform.
Okay, so as long as they call in to
We'll
Sheila.
let Sheila have.
I'll check with Sheila.
Sheila's right here, so I just,
Oh, I forgot. Where is she? I don't see
she's
her
right here in
face.
the room, that's why I have a mask on. I'm not alone.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's 1,000 feet between us, but we're good. But Sheila says that you call in, and she'll be glad to swear you in on the phone or in person. But
Only
they-
because of COVID can they
Yes,
call it.
yep, okay. Any other boards or commission things, Steve?
Yeah, I just want you to know that Candace and Linda and I met for an hour or so a week ago, just talking about formalizing our process a little more. Candace had gotten an application sheet from the town of Avon. It looks like something that we could use something very similar to that. And, Linda has been checking with Terry and with the registrars, making sure we know the people that we appoint are either Republican or Democrat or affiliated, so that we have balance on the commission. So the three of us have put in a little time on that. We'll continue to meet until we until we sharpen up our process a little more.
Thank you. And Terry, I've been working a little bit more with Terry on the spreadsheet. and that's almost straightened out. So, all right, so now we'll move on to number 10, which is our new business. It's our refunds as recommended by the collector of revenue. It's our normal, almost every meeting process. Bob?
Okay, I recommend that these refunds, which you've got in your packet here, are approved. There are 4 motor vehicle ones for $197 and 1 real estate one for $34. The total is $231.58, and I recommend that you approve these as recommended by our tax collector.
May I have a motion to approve? Thank you, Steve. Is there a second? Thank you, Todd. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Which brings us to citizens' comments, 860-738-6958, if you'd like to call in. 860-738-6958. Hi, this is the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Hello, this is Jonathan Moore.
Hang on one second. It's Jonathan, I'm gonna have to translate between you and the rest of the board because of the way the Zoom works. So
Yes, just like last time.
So I'm moving things around so everybody can hear everybody.
Thank you very much.
Okay, it's Jonathan Moore.
Moorhart?
Moorhart, yep, that's right.
Do I give my address like last time?
I'm sorry?
Do I give my address like last time?
Yeah, so you get 3 minutes.
219 Spencer Hill Road.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you. I had just come to ask about the new tax bill that some Connecticut Democrats were proposing. There has been quite a debate on it. Bill 82.
If you're okay, so are you asking us about that, or?
I am, yes. The state bill that wants to propose the state pay extra property tax, even though that was the tax way of local town.
Okay, so what Jonathan is asking, he's asking about what's happening at the state legislature.
I'm asking, I'm just asking, I've read parts of the bill. I was just asking if it will likely pass. What is the opinion of the board on that?
Well, Jonathan, that is an issue at the state legislature. It's not something over here at the Board of Selectmen. And just so you know, when we do public comment, because you called in and whatnot, and I know that you're a student and whatnot, trying to answer your questions and stuff, but normally with public comment, if people give us opinions and stuff like that, we usually will listen to people and take it under advisement, but we don't usually issue comments back normally.
Oh, okay.
But that issue that you're bringing up, and I
it's more of a state issue.
Well, that's what happens is that a lot of the stuff that we do is so local that, and then Jay Case is our state rep and Craig Minor's our state senator, where they really are working on all that over in Hartford. And I guess I would speak for the board that the board doesn't want to see any more, burdens on anybody. But
sorry about that.
No, that's okay. We get it.
All right, thank you.
Is that it?
Yes, it was.
Okay, well,
I asked some people in my Facebook feed about other issues. They said some things, and it was basically about Holland Beach, but that's different.
Oh, well, if you listen to town manager addressed a bunch of those issues that were on Facebook.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, it was the goose poop at Highland Lake.
Yes.
Well,
all right, thank you for answering my questions.
Right. Unfortunately, there's a lot of geese at the lake. A lot of towns have tried to work with the state on that. And
another state issue.
Yeah, no, it's local and state this time. But one of the issues with the geese at the lake is they come to the beach and they come to the boat launch because people like to feed them. That's why the signs are up not to feed the ducks and geese so that they don't become domesticated and see people and think, oh, that's where we should go.
All right, thank you very much for telling me that.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for having me on.
Yep, that's fine, bye-bye. Anyone else? There are a lot of bills at the state legislature today that were working their way through. All right, it takes us to number 12, Selectmen's comments and reports. Anyone have anything? Jack?
Bob, if this one's first, a statement, something I'd like to say, but in our reports that we get from the police department, I was confused by page 7 and 8 reports of the overtime regarding the, what they call it, cover dispatch, cover LCD, and then the COVID numbers. Do you have those papers in front of you?
Yes, they do. I'm looking at page 7 right now.
And then page 8. And that box on page 8, I don't understand how that box is put together with all of the reports above that or the months above that. Maybe I need to come in and get an explanation, or can you kind of quickly comment?
Everything above that has to do with all the categories. If you notice on page 7.
Right, I got all the categories marked down. It's just this cover, dispatch, and then cover LCD costs. There was one in July, another one in September and October.
I think
January.
You're going to have to come in before I give you the breakdown and go through that, because we can do that, and I'll get more explanation for you. But I can't do it over here now because I got other backup reports that need this.
Yeah, I'm sure. It just was, why was that box isolated on page 8? That's what I was trying to figure out. Was there a meaning in
We were trying to
having
break down any COVID charges so we could try to reimburse or cover some of those, was the intent. And I think I don't think the chief explained the box well, but we can.
I'll come in and meet with you.
You come in and we'll go over that. There's a lot more detail behind this detail.
Okay. And let me continue on with something that I've been thinking about. Today we got our budgets, and now we have to start planning and thinking about how we're going to create this budget and present it to taxpayers. And last week when we had the Finance Committee meeting, we had talked a little bit about the fact that under the American Rescue Plan, the town will be getting something like $2.7 million, with $1.7 million to education and $1.46 thousand for government. Now, I recognize that there's still no direct guidelines that we have been given, but a couple of things in my informational search from people when I put on Facebook, what should we do, how could we help, and I got a couple of suggestions that I just want to make public now. I think it's worthwhile. One suggestion was to set up rather than a one-time use and no use and then never see this money again, perhaps setting up a bank account that could be used and drawn from by local businesses who have remained in business over the last 12 months, have been able to sustain, and maybe by having a bank account that they could draw from and withdraw some assistance, and then create in their own business some maybe improvements, just setting it up rather than giving it away, having it as a kind of a use for people, especially businesses that have been able to sustain in town for so long, providing them some upgrades. So I would like to think through perhaps setting something up like that. And the other thing, got a pretty interesting suggestion about, we have been talking about sidewalk repairs and the need for the improvement of the ability to walk on local streets and sidewalks. And while we have an ordinance about who should pay for that, perhaps we could also use some of this money to set up a loan account so people could put some of that money, could borrow some of that money, fix up their front sidewalk, pay us back over a period of time. In other words, I'm looking to use that American Rescue Plan money as a long-term, sustainable, maybe account that businesses and individual taxpayers could maybe use in the future. So just something to think about as we're now looking at how our budget is going to go forward. I would prefer to see that kind of money, the American Rescue Plan money, used over a long term than over a one and done type program. But I know we don't have any of the regs on this yet, and we need to keep our mind open to it. So I wanted to raise that now as we begin to look at the 21-22 budget.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Steve?
You're muted.
A conversation with a resident who, along the similar line that Jack was just talking, he suggested that we do something as a town to recognize, and he called them hometown heroes, who have helped us get through this period of the COVID. Not only our first responders and teachers, but also local businesses, to recognize their efforts, trying to stay in business, trying to cope with COVID. And I thought I would throw the idea out to the selectmen, and maybe some of you have some ideas about how we might do something like that. And if not at the moment, then maybe over the next week or so, think about it, and I'll bring it up again at the next meeting in March.
You mean, Steve, remember back in the spring, we sent out certificates to all the local businesses and stuff?
Yes.
Do you mean something like that again, or are you talking about something different?
I'm just throwing it out there for anything. Certainly it could be something like that, or something very different. I'm not the most creative person in the world, so, I look to board members for ideas as well.
Steve, are you thinking like a celebration for them?
Not necessarily, well, I don't know. Be careful what you volunteer for, Melissa.
Right, no, I know.
I kind of think that those kinds of celebrations and thank yous and even the little certificates, they're okay, but I think what businesses really need is sustainable amount of money to help them through some issues. Maybe they've been able to make it and keep their staff and do some other things, but perhaps with even taking some of this, as I said, the American Rescue money, and saying, hey, you have been so really open and been able to sustain yourself. Here's some, maybe a grant to go ahead and fix something else in your business. Because I don't think, and Bob, maybe you can verify this, but I don't think we've had a business close in town over the past 12 months that had been here prior to March of 2020. I think we haven't
You're
lost
correct.
it.
That's correct. All the Main Street, all the I don't know about a 1 and 2 man home shop or something, but really all the major businesses are significant ones that have not been any closures. I just want you to know, I
How
heard
about
your
fixing
idea.
light bulbs on Main Street?
But I want to comment that Jack first. We've been talking, the COG talked about the money that's coming from the state, and it's coming with serious strings attached with very little flexibility for the town's usage of those funds. Now, it's not all here yet, but boy, it's really, I'll be surprised if they'll allow us to have much discretion on how that money's applied, just so you know so far.
Well, I recognize that you still have to learn a lot about the stipulations about that money, but perhaps just being creative with some of it, we can do things differently.
And the state's not real crazy about letting us be creative with money they give us. As you can see, we just had with the Sucker Brook culvert issue. But anyway,
Yeah, but this is Fed money.
well, controlled by the state. Just so you know. That's that's what we've heard so far, coming from both the major COG discussion over it and our state reps attempting to translate it for us. But it's still a no, to your point. And Candace, let me talk, the street lights, we've had a couple, well, I don't know, I wouldn't call them successful yet, meetings with, they've come up with a new format for us to work with Public Works, and it'll allow us to report weekly back and forth between them and us. And I told them that a couple of our selectmen are very concerned, particularly you, and I gave them your list. So, but they have come up with a new process, which we're going to begin to incorporate. Now, Candace, I'm going to include you in that process as soon as they get it to you. It's a process. The process between Public Works and Eversource. So with a whole new series of forms.
What about? Okay, what's missing is the process from Winstead to Public Works.
Public Works.
Other than me identifying lights that are out.
That is going to be part of that process between our police department, Public Works, and those are the rest of us that happen to notice something that they haven't noticed.
Have you looked into the repair of the plugs and poles?
I'm sorry, missed that. Which ones? You're breaking up again.
The plugs on the poles. You know, the plugs?
We haven't concluded how that's going to be done. They're still resisting that, but we're trying to see if we can figure out and get permission to wire them ourselves on their poles.
Thank you.
Okay. I have two things. One, just so you know, last week I made contact with the Friendly Hands Food Bank Director out of Torrington, who is actually, Friendly Hands actually works in this entire area. After I heard the radio announcement about food being delivered to the senior housing in Torrington, and I spoke with Karen, and she is all for, working out that same arrangement up here in Winstead. So I talked to Jennifer Kelly, hooked those two up. There's an email that's gone out to the senior housing sites. They just have to, residents, in order for them to get a box of food, will just need to fill out their name and address. That's only used for the food hub and through Friendly Hands. It's not for any other purpose. But the seniors that sign up, the food will be delivered from Friendly Hands to the common areas at each of the housing sites in Winstead. So we got that set up last week, and Jen is doing all the legwork on that for us. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is our budgets will be out. So I just have a brief statement for everyone, including the press that are here. Is the Board of Selectmen received the 2021-2022 Town Manager recommended budget as required by the town charter. This budget will be discussed and adjusted between now and the final decision date of April 23rd. Like every year, adjustments will be made as the process continues. This year, more difficult decisions may need to be made. The Board of Selectmen will examine information coming from citizens, the Connecticut State Legislature decisions as they relate to town aid, as well as the American Rescue Act and the impact locally. The Board of Selectmen, the Town Manager, the Board of Education will hold our required public hearings on the budget to take input from citizens. The public hearing on the Board of Education budget will be March 29th. The public hearing on the full budget will be on April 5th. The Board of Selectmen will hold additional special meetings as necessary to make budget adjustments, but no later than April 23rd. The reason for April 23rd is we need 15 days before town meeting for the town clerk to have it in her area, as well as to be published. Our annual town meeting will be on May 10th, where those in attendance will be presented the budget. They can make motions to decrease certain line items if they so choose, but cannot choose to increase items. At the end of that discussion, the budget is then sent to referendum at a date that the town meeting will choose. So we do have quite a bit of time. It will be published online tomorrow through the Finance Office, as we always do, the draft form. Remember, it is a draft, and I just want everybody to remember that this is a working document. It is not most likely the final document. There will always be adjustments made here and there. And like I said, a big part of it is going to be the two unknowns that we do not control, which is the state and the federal government monies coming through. If the states, for instance, if their local funding for the state aid pilot money increases, then that would increase our revenue line. But right now, there is nothing formal about it, just a discussion about it. So there's a lot of moving parts still, and so this board will meet diligently as we have in the past to make sure that we are presenting a fair budget to the community. And with that, is there anyone else? Steve?
We adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Todd. All in favor? Unanimous? Okay, we'll be in touch. Night, everybody.